What's going on, yo? It's your boy Cass, and welcome to the One Podcast. And basically, the reason why I'm doing this video is just to let you guys know exactly what this podcast is going to be about. And for me personally, I want it to be relatable. I feel like everybody has a story. Not only that everybody has a story, but in some way, even if it's different, but we all can relate somehow. And basically, I'm going to be telling, my story, and I feel like my story needs to be told. And if you can save one life or help one person go through what I'm going through, then it's worth it. I feel like it's worth it at the end of the day. Sometime in life, we all go through things, and we don't know why we go through it. And honestly, when these things happen, it's unexpectedly. Sometimes it could be a loss of a family member. Sometimes it can be, on circumstances, a diagnosis, cancer, accident, who knows. But at the end of the day, no one knows how that affects us. Now, we can try to have an idea as to put yourself in the person's shoes, put yourself in their position, and try to understand what's going on. But really, you never really understand until they actually tell you. So basically, I will be telling my story and the reason I actually wanted to start this podcast. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Khasim. Originally, my main name is Khasim, but I go by the name of KHAS. Everybody call me KHAS. It's a family name, and most likely that's what everybody remember. People don't remember Khasim like that. Originally, I'm from the Caribbean, a small island called Dominica, and no, not Dominican Republic, it's a whole nother island. Between Guadeloupe and Martinique, shout out to my DMIC, Posse, you don't know, 767 rep all day. But I've been in the US for about 10 years now. I came up here in 2011, and initially when I first came up was for physical therapy. I came up on a medical visa to do physical therapy at a pediatric hospital called Rankin Jordan in St. Louis, Missouri. So, just a little backstory on who I am. Again, I grew up in the islands, and I know y'all see the crutches, but that's pretty much my story of how I became how I got on the crutches, and how I became just who I am today, overcoming challenges, and just every obstacle in the way, just believing in God, and just knowing He's gonna come through, and Him coming through for me is just confirmation, like, hey, I'm not alone. So I'm here to tell you guys that you're not alone. Even if you're going through something that no one knows, even if you've been through that something that no one knew, you're not alone. God is with you. Not only that He's with you, but He feels all the emotions you're feeling. So that anger, that pain, that rage, the fact that you want to explode, you want to kill something, you want to hurt something, He understands that. He understands all those emotions. And for me, my situation is a little bit different. Basically, I was paralyzed overnight. Yeah. So, y'all gonna want to grab a glass of wine, grab a beer. Y'all gonna want to grab a blunt, roll up a blunt. I get comfortable for this one because I'm letting y'all into my life, and it's gonna be a little bit of a long story. But I'm going to try to make it short, but at the same time, if I make it short, you might miss something. So, bear with me. Roll up, take your time, and, pretty much just work with me. So I was 15 years old. In my mind, I'm top of my world. I'm the top of the world, in my world, that is. Very active, basketball, football, sports, active, in my mind, I was smart, and y'all can see, I was blessed with how God took His time, making me, I'm very fortunate. But what I'm trying to say is, none of this matters. What you look like, where you're from, none of this matters, because in the end, we all won. We all won, and we all go through things. So all that never really matters at the end of the day. It's all how you look at life. The perspective. And I truly feel that every single one that's looking at this video right now, you looking at this video right now, you're going through something. And I just want to let you know again that I'm here for you. But basically, I was 15 years old. Like I said, I was the top of my world. And I got paralyzed overnight. And it sounds crazy. I know it's like, what? Overnight? Like, yeah, literally overnight. Within 24 hours, I could not stand up. And the crazy part about it is that I never really got answers from doctors because they never really figured out what happened. Now, growing back in the islands, back in those days, like, not I'm saying back in those days, but like 10 years ago to 11 years ago, because I've been dealing with this for 11 years now, since 2010, August 14th, 2010. That's the night that happened. I was 15, and just wow, just living life to the fullest. Like, growing up in the islands with one thing you don't know is that you're never in the house because every day is an adventure. Always something to do. So I was very active. And I was on my way to a party. And I just didn't feel like myself. I felt like my legs were weak. But before that, during the day I went swimming. But the first sign I noticed was like my hands were pale. So I'm like, my hands looking kind of pale. I look at my friend's hands because it looked like dead man hands. That's why it caught my attention. I'm like, why my hands are so pale? Like just straight white, like dead man hands. So I look at my friend's hands, the palm of their hands, and they look normal, pink, like it has blood circulating or whatever. Still didn't take that for anything. We went to the park, played soccer. After we played soccer, there was a party on the beach. We were supposed to be going to, the party on the beach. Everybody meet up at my spot. Boom, then we head to the party. On the way to the party, that's when I started not feeling like myself. So now we caught up. So not feeling like myself, I stopped by my mom, hair salon. When I got some money to go to the party. At the time, I felt like my legs under my body were just light-footed. You ever felt like you just started drinking, but the drinking started to kick in? Like, that's the feeling I got. Like, just light-footed. Me not thinking anything of it. I'm like, man, I smoke all day today. I probably ain't eat nothing. So probably I just need to, get something to eat. In the process of getting something to eat, still didn't feel like I was getting any better as far as like strength-wise, energy-wise. So we on the way to the party. We walking to the party now. We stopped, got some weed. So I used to have this thing. Excuse me. I used to have this rubber. Back in the islands, we have this rubber that you can find in I think like a bearing or something, like a mechanical. Whenever we find those rubbers, we'll put it either around my arm or around my ankle. It's something that we just do back in the islands. But if you have gold chains, sometimes we would wrap it around the rubber and have it. But I would always have that rubber around my hand, and I would always fidget. I always mess with it with my fingers. So there was something I would always be able to do, and I realized I'm not able to do it with my hand. So that's when I tried to snap my hand, try to snap my fingers. And in the process, I'm like, I can't even snap my fingers. What's going on? My legs is feeling weak. I can't snap my fingers. What is going on? And to me, that's when I just started thinking, okay, what could it be? I'm still walking to the party. I'm telling my friends, something ain't right. Those were my words. They was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know, but something ain't right. It was me and my two other friends, Bugsy and Wati. They was with me the whole time. The morning we smoked, to the river, to the park, on the way to the beach. It was all three of us that whole day. And they can actually tell you, the whole process, if they remember, who knows. But at the same time, I remember explaining to them I'm not feeling like myself, and they was convincing me nah, you're good. So I'm like, all right, so anyway, we're still going to the party. Halfway to the party, we got a ride. Ride brothers to the party, boom. When we got to the party, we went lower down to roll up so we can go back in the crowd. By the time we got there, the party was already jumping. So whilst we were rolling up lower down on the beach, because the party was on the beach, whilst we were rolling down lower down, my fingers were so weak that when I put the weed in the wrapper, because back in the islands we smoke papers. First time I smoked a blunt was in the US, and I thought motherfuckers were smoking paper bag. I'm like, what is that? They're like, this is a blunt. I'm like, this is a blunt? What is a blunt? I see that man breaking down cigars and on some 007 shit, motherfuckers had a Dutch, right? And I see the motherfucker unravel the damn first layer of the Dutch, break the shit down, roll it up, raffle back up the damn layer over. I'm like, what the fuck? All that shit just to smoke? I'm like, but anyways, first time I got high on a blunt was in the US, because back in the islands we smoke straight joints. Like, we might put grabba in it, which what y'all call Fanto or high leaf. We call it grabba, but that's the closest thing we're gonna have to a blunt. It's just to have that blend, that kick, that when you smoke the ganja. So again, that's when I realized that, okay, something is wrong. So at that point, I started feeling like all my nerves just rushing through my body, like literally just rushing through my body. And it was so intense that the best way I can literally visualize my nerves rushing through my body like electricity. Like, that's the best experience. I can see them like electrons just run. It was so intense that I had a visual of how they was rushing through my body, like beam of light just rushing through. Everything was just so sensitive. The wind was sensitive. I was twitching just off the wind blowing on my skin. I took my shirt off. I didn't know what was going on. After a while, I felt something bit my, like a mosquito or something, like, bit my left leg. So I'm like, I'm like, damn, man. So when I slapped my left leg, I realized, like, whoa, my left leg is numb. I'm like, so at that point, I started calling my mom, like, Mom, I think something is wrong with me. She was like, what you mean? You just left? Because I did say, again, I had just left a yes salon to go get some money, so I was fine. So me calling her, half an hour to an hour later, I'm not myself. She like, all right, whatever, he's good. He's probably just, she's not taking it for anything. But it was when I started blowing her phone up back to back, she realized, like, okay, this is not my son. He ain't gonna call back to back if it's not a problem. So she ended up coming to come get me, see what's going on at the party, to take me to the hospital. By the time she came, my both leg was numb. So at this point, I'm trying to like walk to the car when she came, walk to the taxi. And I remember my friend Wati literally telling me, like, don't make it look like you're dying. And at the back of my mind, I'm like, alright, but don't make it look like I'm dying. Like, nigga, I look like I'm dying. Like, that's what I'm thinking, but I'm not. Everything's happening so fast. I'm like, man, he's telling me I look like I'm dying. So I'm putting it together because my mom, the type of person, she worries so much that I'm not trying to make it look like I'm doing bad, but I was really doing bad because I don't know what is going on. So it took everything out of me just to walk to the car, like, normal, to make it seem as if I'm good. So by the time we got to the car, by the time I got to the hospital, again, took everything out of me to walk to the hospital. So my mom don't make it, worry, oh, what's going on? So I remember those steps. Those steps were like big, giant steps. I felt like each step, my feet sunk into the ground. They were just like, boom, 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 just solid steps, just taking everything out of me to walk fine. We got there, we're in the waiting room, and, they pretty much started asking me a bunch of questions. Now, at the time, my mom didn't know a lot of things that I was really into. My mom just knew I'm her son, and, in my mom's eyes, I was very respectful to my elders. But around my peers can tell you who I was. I was a totally different person that my mom think I was at the time. So my mom thinking, they asked me, do you smoke? I lied, I said no. Because I didn't want him to think that, oh man, you smoking, this probably something, because in my mind, I'm like, I wasn't the only one that smoked, so I'm not going to make it seem as if it was something in the weed when we all smoke. If it was something in the weed, we all would have been fucked up. So, did you drink anything? No, I lied. No, that was the truth, because we didn't drink anything. Back then, we only did one thing. Either we drink or we smoke, and we chose to smoke, and we never really tried to mix drinking and smoking. That's one thing I always try to have is like, we're only going to do one thing. So at the time, man, they asking me a bunch of questions, and I'm just like, just answering to the best, because my mom right there, I ain't trying to like, let her know a lot of things, but I was 15, and, I started smoking at 11. I smoked for the first time and got high when I was 11. It wasn't the first time I smoked and got high because I wasn't doing it right, but previously I smoked, but I wasn't getting high until one of my friend brother, Shabbat, shout out to Shabbat, actually taught me how to inhale it, like, And that's when I started coughing, and that's when I knew how to smoke, and that's when I got high. But I was 11 when I got high for the first time. Went home, slept for 4 hours straight, woke up like, oh shit, it goes away. At first I thought I was going to go to the psych ward because I'm like, oh shit, I'm high, what is going on? Like paranoia. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought I was going to end up in the psych ward like one of the mad people or some shit. But once the high go away, I was just curious, like, oh, okay, so it goes away, so it's not going to last forever. So I was just curious, let me try it again this time. I want to try to control the high, right? And, and that's pretty much how I started smoking. And basically, it wasn't like every single day. It was always like whenever we can get it. And growing up in the islands, like growing up around other, older guys, like it was nothing for us to get. We would always probably get like, probably like a joint here, and we probably all go roll up, smoke, and we would get high. Our tolerance low as hell. Young-minded, and young kids, man, having fun, thinking we're grown, getting high. Like, I got high before I bust my first nut, so that's my baby. You know what I mean? She ain't going nowhere, but straight up. But eventually, like, once we started smoking, it was always for like a reason. It's celebration, meditation, and back in the islands, Rastafarian is a way of life. At one point, I stopped eating meat, stopped eating chicken. So I always looked up to the Rastafarians, and, I was always a straight, when we was younger and we was playing police and dread, I was the dread, I always wanted to be dread, I never wanted to ever once say I'm the police. Like, what's the point of chasing, nah, that's not fun being the police. So it was different growing up in the islands. I know some of y'all gonna be like, 11 years old, you smoking? Like, but that's nothing. Like, I seen a 10-year-old got high. Because back in the islands, you're ahead of your time. You're a man before you're even a child. So the things that, a regular child is not gonna be able to see, what I realized, over the years is that there's no boundary. Like, there's no boundary in the islands. Like, what's there? If a motherfucker is cooking crack right here, the child is right here, the child is sensing. The conversation that is happening, or the conversation that is happening, the child is right there, the lingos. So eventually, as the child grows older, and subconsciously hear those words again and understand what they meant, now the child is remembering what those conversations were. Like, oh, that's what that meant. So now you have understanding of grown adult understanding, but at a young age, because now you're probably 9, 10, you have better understanding, so you understood what you was hearing earlier, you understood what you was seeing earlier, but it's just that you just have access to what everybody else sees. There's no filter. So kids from the islands tend to, grow up older. So me smoking at 11, 12, that's nothing. That's like a regular teenager, especially if you was like how I was, out there active, riding bikes, fighting, just living life, like just to the fullest. Like, looking back on it again, with that happening, God saved me. But anyways, back to the story. I'm not trying to get off track. Back to the story, but yeah, so the shit happened, man. They asked me that they was like, we're gonna overnight you for observation. I'm like, I bet. Probably around 2, 3 o'clock, I felt like this burning, stinging sensation, like literally like burning, stinging sensation, not on the whole arm, but just in the outlining of my arm. And once I started feeling that, like, it felt like the best way I can put it, I'm not sure if you ever got stung by a centipede, but it's not a nice feeling. It felt like 100 centipedes stung me. It felt like 3 jellyfish stung me at the same time. And on top of that, my arm on fire with someone having a hot charcoal rubbing against it. That's the best way I can explain the feeling. I've been stung by a jellyfish. I've been stung by a centipede. I've been burned, and I also know what hot charcoal feel like if you walk on it, or something like that. So that's the best way. That combination, all at once, multiplied, like I said, 100 centipede, 3 jellyfish. It was just a burning, stinging sensation out of this world. And I always say, like, on a scale from 1 to 10, it was 100. And like literally, like growing up, man, like I said, I've been in situations where, I've been in fights, I've been in riots, not just 1-on-1, but 5-on-10, 5-on-7, like that. It wasn't never really 1-on-1 when I fight or when we fought. It was always like, so I know what pain is like, on the adrenaline, I know what pain is like. I've been, jumped, I've been, I got it, whatever you can think of. I just haven't been shot, thank God. But when it comes to like physical pain, like whatever, I know what pain is like, and I never felt any type of pain like that. I can tell you that. That shit had me bawling, hollering, nurse, 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 nurse. When the nurse finally came, I was going, I said, I don't know, but I don't feel like I'm on fire. And then pretty much after that, I was just so scared that I wanted to come clean for everything, to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to just like not tell them everything. I'm going to tell them everything at this point, because we need to find out what the fuck is going on. So yeah, I was like, yeah, nurse, I did smoke, but I didn't smoke by myself now. It was, she's like, you ain't said that. I said, this is exactly why I ain't said that. Look at how you're acting right now. Oh man. So she went and got some motherfucking IV, rushed that shit in my arm. Pretty much said me, whenever we tried to certain mark, call her. Probably took about like 45 minutes. I'm up 2:45, 3 or whatever time it is, looking at that shit, so I can call her to slow it down, because it's just dropping, so she had to come slow it down. So when she came, boom, dropped, slow it down, went to sleep next morning, right? Now, waking up the next morning, when you just wake up, your mind is clouded, so you're not really there. And I remember trying to move my leg across, trying to move my leg across the bed, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just not waking up, probably I'm just still asleep. So I grabbed what I did, I grabbed my hand, grabbed my leg, took my hand, grabbed my leg, and fling it across the bed, so I can stand up. When I tried to stand up, I fell on my knees. I'm like, whoa. Called for nurse again. Nurse. So what's wrong? I said, I don't know, I can't stand up. They called the obelisk. The obelisk came, picked me up, and that's when they went and got the doctor. They called my mom, told her, hey, we don't know what's going on, but your son, he can't walk. I think my mom called my dad, told him what was going on. All right, cool. So at this point, it's just like, okay, what is going on? I'm thinking about all type of shit, what is it, what happened, what is it, you telling me, I just can't fucking stand up, I can't walk, hold up, I play basketball, this is my life, I play basketball, I do track, I swim, I play football, we call it, see, y'all call it soccer, we call it football. I play football every day, I play my fucking nickname on the football field is hat trick. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what a hat trick is, do your Googles, do your research. But my nickname was hat trick. Ask anybody. I wasn't the best soccer player, I wasn't the best dribbler, but I knew how to score. I knew how to be open, and I knew how to score. Basketball was my passion. Right? Basketball was my passion. And I felt like at that time, you can put Kobe, LeBron, all of them on one team, and I'll still take them. That's how I felt. I felt like I could play basketball and not even get tired all day, because that's what I love to do. I just felt like I was unstoppable in basketball. So when this happened to me, it's like Whitney Houston losing her voice overnight, and doctors can't tell her what happened. It's like Tiger Woods losing his fucking, capability of swinging, using his arms overnight, and doctors can't tell him what happened. It's the fucking equivalent of LeBron or any of your favorite athlete losing their pride and joy, their everything, what made them who they are. I mean, their actions, their personality, and what they do for people makes them who they are. But as far as why they were great, there's certain things that you need to be great. You need your legs to play basketball. Yes, you can play wheelchair basketball, but the full function in basketball, yes, you do need your legs. So I feel like it's the equivalent of LeBron, Carmelo, Rondo, anybody who plays sport, just losing what they love overnight, and doctors not having any type of answers. So after that, I got transferred to the main hospital in the island at the time, which is the Princess Margaret Hospital, and that's when they started asking me a bunch of questions, doing tests. Now, I have feeling in my legs, but it's just numb. So for example, I can't differentiate hot or cold. I'll feel the water, but I can't even tell if the water's hot or cold. I just feel the water. So for me, like on my arms and like on my upper chest, where I have like complete feeling between hot or cold, So when I shower, that's pretty much where I feel the temperature. Everything from below my nipple, it just feel like the water is there. So as far as on my arms and my upper chest, like that's where I feel when I take a shower. So I take long showers because I like to enjoy the water. I just have the water pouring on me. But that's just the beginning of how everything happened. It just happened overnight. And doctors, after that I got transferred to ICU. And once I got to ICU, that's when shit got real. Because that's when they started, figuring out what could it be? Diagnosis. That's when I got diagnosis start coming in. What medication that we need to do, and just a lot of things. But what we're gonna do right now is we're just gonna take a quick break, and then once we come back, I'll get into the ICU. What happened? What was it like being in ICU for over 2 weeks? I literally was in ICU for over 2 weeks, and people around me were just dying. I remember people were just, like I said, people around me were just dying, and I remember asking myself damn, am I next? Because I'm in the same place where people is really dying. It's that serious, and I used to ask myself man, am I next? People is dying in this place, but I'm just here, innocent. And just having faith, and I'm just not worried. I'm everything gonna be good. I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna walk, just keeping my head up. And the nurses kept saying how strong I was, but I didn't even know what strength was. I just know I'm in this situation. I'm gonna get through it, and I'm just gonna get through it. I don't know what strength was at the time to say that I was strong. Looking back at it now, there's a lot of ways someone could have handled it. But the thing is, like I said, looking back again now, I was a child. I was 15, but I wasn't only 15 by age, not mentally. I was way ahead of, so I wasn't even like a child, so I wasn't thinking like a child. Looking back and see how a 15-year-old would handle my situation now, I was just man, I don't know. But again, like I said, I wasn't 15 in my mind. I was a grown man. The things that I did, things that I've seen, situations I've been through, life and death, people trying to, literally take my life, feeling hunted, been through it at 15. I've been through a lot at 15, literally had multiple, situations where God came through, and, but I'll get into the whole ICU process because there's something I want to share with y'all because I died in ICU. Yeah, I died in ICU. And not many people can say that they died and actually can speak about it. So, yeah, we'll be back. Stay tuned. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy KHAS, and if you saw the last video, basically I was explaining what happened to me as to how I ended up on crutches. And we stopped at the part where I died in ICU, but before all of that, once I got to ICU, it was a whole different experience. That's when I realized, this is serious. I'm not just in the hospital. I'm in intensive care unit. And, it was just they check on you every single hour versus the other ward. It was they check on you probably every 3-4 hours. So it was a big difference. They come check your vitals and everything every single hour, around the clock. The only time I think 1 or 2 people is at shift is graveyard, late night. And that's the shift I actually died in. What are the odds, right? Graveyard, nigga died through the graveyard shift. But, I saw people died in ICU and, just asking myself, damn, am I next? I didn't know how can I put it? I didn't know how serious it was because when you're in that situation and you're the patient, they don't tell you what's going on. Your peoples know, but they don't tell you because just worrying alone can make it worse. Whatever you got going on, if you worry and stress on it, it's gonna make it worse. Whether it's illness, anything. it's gonna make it worse. So they did not want to like worry me too much, so I didn't know exactly what was going on. But basically, I knew from where I was, laying in ICU, I knew that we had to get a medication that basically they had to, it was coming in an IV form. Before they did that, they was taking like my blood, I think like washing my plasma or something like that and putting it back in my body. I didn't know exactly the whole process. Again, like I said, I was 15, but I only can tell you like what I knew at that time. But I remember them taking several times, taking blood to go, I do whatever, wash wire, but whatever it was to put it back in my body. I think I did that like one time, and then what was it, like the medication was something crazy, man. It was expensive. I think it was like $14,000 or something like that in our money, easy. But it was in Europe because they had to actually send for the medication in Martinique, which is a French island. And at the time, we didn't have the money for the medication. So what we did was, as far as a community, we went and pretty much had a fundraiser, like a raffle. People had, what was going on, and they would just, go around, collection, put the amount and the name, and whatever the money comes up with, they will pretty much give it to my mom, like, that type of thing. Almost like a GoFundMe, but a GoFundMe in person. Not just over the web, but it's literally like, that's what it was, like a GoFundMe, but in person with people just like, friends, family, whoever had one of the raffle sheet, or not raffle, but, donation sheet would just go around trying to see, so collect money for the medication. And, they was so, I was just so blessed that they was able to actually send the medication without having the full amount of the money. So that was just a blessing right there. That's how serious it was. So once they finally got the medication again, that was like a guinea pig in there. They were just taking all different type of tests, taking fluid from my spine. And when a needle is in your spine, trust me, it's not a nice feeling. Like, you just feel like ice. Like, I don't know how to put it. Just feeling that needle going through your spine, and the cracking in between the bone. Like, that shit was the most uncomfortable. And they have you in the fetus position. You can't move. 4 or 5 people holding you down. And if they draw blood, they gotta do it all over again because the fluid in your spine is clear. It's clear like water. I didn't know that until I saw it, and I was like, can I see it? They showed it to me, and the fluid in your spine is clear like water. So they have to leave the syringe in there, and until the fluid pops in, and that's when they pull. You can't just put it in there and pull because if you get blood, it's no good. They can't really use that as a sample. And but that was just like the most irritating process for me. But while I was in the ICU, I remember vividly there was a moment where I knew I died. It wasn't for a long time. It was for a short period of time. I would say under 10 seconds. But basically, I remember everything disappeared. Like everything. There was no buildings, no road, not even earth. There wasn't even no earth, no dirt, no nothing. Just gray. And the type of gray like it's about to rain type of gray. Just gray clouds, just nothing. Like the best way I can put it, there was this scene in this movie with Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman, and it was called God. And there was this place where there was nothing but white. There was nothing there, just white all around. It's picture that, but gray. And it's crazy. How would someone even have the fucking idea? It's not really like, it's definitely not like, like that white, but there's nothing there, but it's gray. And I remember hearing God's voice cracking through the sky like thunder. Now, it was a voice. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't thunder. Again, it was a voice that came through with the cracking the sky, like cracking through the sky like thunder. It was a voice. And it was that moment, like, when you know. And you have to ask. You have to ask. And I remember the first thing I said was, God, as in God, question mark. And the second question I asked was, am I dead? And once I asked that question, boom, I remember just gasping, like, trying to catch my breath, like, because I was in my sleep at that time. It wasn't a dream, trust me. Again, when you're in ICU, you hooked up to all this bunch of machines, again, like, my fingernail would have, like, indents, because I was in there so long that when my fingernail was growing, you would see the indent from the finger monitor. Your fingernail grows like it's an indent, that's how long you have to like, switch it out from one finger to another, all of that. But once I woke up, like I said, gasping, trying to figure out what was going on, I looked to the side of the machine. I remember seeing the white flat line, and then started going up. Again, it wasn't for long, but I knew, and I'm just thinking to myself, I remember she was Cuban, short nurse. I forgot what the name was. I think she was the eldest in the group of Cubans, because at that time, Cubans were helping us because, they're very smart when it comes to like the medical. And they were like a group of nurses in the ICU that was helping us out. And I remember her rushing, coming like, Khasim, you okay? And I was just like gasping again, trying. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, yo, I think I just died. Like, and you're having a bad dream, what's going on? And I'm just like, yo, like, in my mind, like, can you just replay, like, can you replay my vitals and let me know, like, I'm just like, I guess so, but I'm just trying to, like, really take in, like, what just really happened. But I know for a fact, and I can tell you this, that there is a process after death. It's not just you dying and you dying. Like, no, there is a process after death. And not only if there's a process after death, but there is a God. Like, if you don't believe in God, it's not that, most people would say, I respect that, you can believe whatever you want. That's not what I'm telling you. If you don't believe in God, the only thing I can tell you is, I'm sorry for you. Straight up, that's the only thing I can say. It's not about, you respect what you want, you think what you want to think. I'm telling you, if you don't believe that there's a God, once you die, and there's not a process after that, I'm sorry for you. And honestly, I really think that the fact that I even acknowledge him and didn't, like, at the same time, like I said, when you know, and you have to ask. But when I heard his voice, I didn't understand what he said, but I know it was a voice. It was like a deep, hollow, but soft at the same time voice. I can't explain it. It was like, I can't even make the sound, but it was a voice, man. And I'm just thankful for a second chance, because who knows what was happening to me? Who knows? Again, like I said, once the numbness was rising, they thought that, my organs was going to shut down, my lungs was going to fail, my heart was going to fail. Like, I had to learn how to write again. I had to learn how to use a spoon again, because my hands were shaking. My hands almost got paralyzed. Like, literally on this side of my thumb, like, I literally almost cannot feel nothing right there. Almost cannot feel nothing. Like, my thumb, again, like, my index finger is like, I use everything around it now, because my brain figured out a way how to, work it. But no one knew what was going to happen, and that's why they told my mom to prepare for the worst. And I didn't understand how serious it was. I'm just like I said, just waiting to go home. I'm just trying to walk again, play basketball, go back to my life so I can enjoy Carnival. And that's just my mindset. But, man, I can tell you, like, that process let me realize, like, okay, there's more to life. Like there is. And it's people be like, yeah, you probably see your loved ones. Like, no, like, there's no one there. Like, there's no loved ones, no grandma, nobody that you know that is in the past is there. Like, nobody's there. Maybe when he comes back, but until then, within the time frame of death and God coming back, it's nothing but you and God and the grave. That's it. And the crazy thing is, like, you have all the thing you remember. It's you. You know what I mean? You're looking around. It's you. Like it's your subconscious. All the knowledge you have up until death, you keep with you. That's why it's very important to know what you have, because that's all. It's important to have memories and like knowing great things, because that's all you're gonna have when you take with you, and it's gonna be you and God. And most people can't live alone because you answer that. I'm gonna let you answer that. Why most people can't be alone? You know, ask yourself that, because what death made me realize is that when you die, you're all alone. You know, you're all alone. It's just you and God again. And if you can be happy, if you can find true happiness, alone, you'll be alright when you're gone. You'll be alright. If you can find true happiness within yourself, alone, I'm talking about in peace, finding yourself. You can only find yourself alone. You know, if you're around people, it's hard to find yourself because you're not trying to do what's for you. You know, as far as sometimes you might want to not hear that music, but because of them, you want to please them, you might play that music. But at that time, you might want to hear something different. And sometimes us compromising for other people our whole life make us forget who we are and what we like, because we're trying to please everybody else but ourselves. And a lot of us can't live by ourselves. A lot of us can't be alone. But again, like I said, you know, death is alone. And you just can't fear it. And again, once you come in a situation where you accepted death, and we're going to get off this death topic, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just trying to let you guys know, you know, how blessed you are to be here. But not only that, but you have time. Like, you have time as long as you're here to, like, be prepared, because once you're gone, that's it. That's it. Game over. There's no coming back. There's no what you did up until now that's what it is. What you know up until now, that's what it is. The memories you have up until now, that's what you're going to take with you. And, you know, we just got to find peace within ourselves. You know, we just have to find peace within ourselves. You know, sometimes it might not be easy. You know, we got to come together. We got to come as one. We got to come as one. But that was just like my experience whilst I was in ICU. Split few seconds of death that I know that there was something else, you know, after death. Like, there's a process after death, you know. And thankfully that, you know, not many people can say that they had that experience and can share it, but that's just one of my experiences I want to share to the world. And regardless of what anybody says, I know it's my truth. You know, that happened, 11 years ago? And I remember everything, like, till this day. I can tell you, that's why I'm able to tell you how the day went, like, vividly. I can tell you that what I had on, you know, everything. But, yeah, just, you know, in life, like I said, stuff happened overnight. Ended up on the crutches. But, you know, when that happened, you know, it did something to me. As far as, like, mentally. You know, when that happened, it did something to me mentally. Like, not saying that it broke me, but I was broken for a long time. You know, my confidence, you know, everything. I was just broken, and I felt like I lost part of myself. I wasn't me. I wasn't myself. This is not me. Like, this is not the person I know. Life after, like, what was that like up until now? You know, but, man, just part of life, man. Just part of life. This is just like, that was the beginning of my journey. That was the beginning of a new Khasim. That day, God gave me a second chance. I was reborn. Like, I'd rather have a life on crutches with a second chance than be dead. You know? And I'm pretty sure anybody who's dead right now would rather have a life on crutches. You know? So, just gotta be thankful for what you have. And, you know, be thankful you can stand up. You know, just be thankful for, you know, everything, because you don't know, you know, you don't know how can I put it, man? You don't know how much something is important to you until you lose it. You know, it's little as, you know, standing up. We take that for granted, but Somebody else is just fighting, asking for one chance just to take one step again. And we take that for granted every day because we think we're supposed to. But, there are some pros and there are some cons that comes along with this. But like I said, it did something to me. And I want to speak on that because, I feel like when things happen to us, it does something to us mentally, whether it's trauma and, how we move on with life. Sometimes can be based on, that experience, and how we look at life is based on that experience. So overall, we gotta be thankful for it regardless, because everything happens for a reason, even if you don't see why. When I get back, I'll explain to you all exactly how it broke me and what it did to my mental state, and me getting out that mental state of mind and being where I am today on the One Podcast, and being a business owner, and what's one to inspire. That's all I want to do. I just want to help. That's it. I just want to help. If I can help one person who can say, "Oh man, I've been through that. Oh man, I'm on crutches." Like, you've been going through it for what, 7 years, 6 years, 2 years. I've been going in for 11. Perhaps somebody's going through more, but for me, I can just explain what it did to me. And once we get back, we'll get into the mental, how it broke me and how I was broken for a long time. And we'll talk about that when we get back. What's going on? It's your boy Khasim, and welcome back to another section of pretty much my story and who I am and the reason for the One Podcast. And again, it's like I was saying earlier, when this happened to me, kind of it did something to me mentally. Not only physically, of course, but the mental part was what the hardest thing, and still is the hardest thing for me, dealing with this traumatic situation. And when that happened, it's again, you lose part of yourself. And in your mind, the person you was before, that's not who you see. That's not you. That's how I look at myself. That's not me. All the dreams of everything that's not me. And once that started happening, I got really, really, really depressed. At that point, I'm at the hospital and all that. And to be honest with you, it's a long story. I really don't want to pretty much go into every single details, but along the podcast, with different guests and, relating, y'all pretty much will get bits and pieces along the way, but this is just a brief overall, what this is about. It's about, telling your story. We all got a story. And again, it was just a mindset thing. Feeling you lose part of yourself and this is not you. And, what happened? And getting misdiagnosed twice. The first diagnosis was Guillain-Barré syndrome, and the second diagnosis was transverse myelitis. So, being misdiagnosed twice, but the closest thing that said it was was transverse myelitis, but I still never have that answer. It's just something that I feel hope is what really kept me. Having hope. And sometimes we need to have hope. Yes, we need to have faith. Faith is good, don't get me wrong. But we also need to have hope. Hope can keep somebody alive. Hoping one day maybe I'll walk again. Who knows? Maybe there's a reason why I never had that closure. But that hope is what kept me going. That hope is what let me say, I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I want to get on my crutches. I want to move my leg. Every step I take, I get stronger, but I can't really explain it like overall. Like it's just something that you have to just find within yourself to overcome. But what it also helped me realize that, that's not who you are. Is like who you are to the world. Not your physical aspect, not your beauty, none of that. Like none of that matters. Who you are is who you are to the world. The energy you put out there, the love you put out there, that's how people is gonna remember you. That's who you are. Not this, not a wheelchair, not a prosthetic leg, like nah. That's what it let me realize. And once you find out who you are and what you wanna do, you just have to go do it. And if it's for me making the one podcast is what I wanted to do. Like anybody can tell you, whenever we have this discussion, they probably heard me say, I want to have a podcast, I want to have a podcast eventually. They can tell you that. It's something I always wanted to do. And I just wanted it to be so different, but at the same time, I know I had to reach a lot of people with my story. But at the same time, I didn't know how. I know it wasn't rap, I'm not a rapper, none of that. But with this right here, I think somebody out there is going to be able to relate. And if you can change one life, again, the one podcast was worth it. If you can change 2 lives, that's more than enough for me. But we have stories. And our stories need to be heard. Because there are people who are going through exactly what we're going through. Again, you might not understand what I'm going through, but I'm sure you have something that somebody else is going through. I'm telling you. And with these situations, like, when they happen, overall, we really got to be thankful for them. Like, because without them, who are we? Without the trials and tribulations, without this, who am I? I'll probably just, I wouldn't be able to reach as many as I would. I ask myself 1,000 times, why? Why this happened to me? There's a lot of people this could have happened. I'm not why? But they always say, why is it early for long tail? But in the end, you just got to be thankful. Thankful for everything. Thankful for life. Thankful for your story. Imagine knowing what you've been through and you're still here today. Imagine knowing what you've been through and where you can be. Imagine that. Imagine that. And that's what it's about, man. The One Podcast. Just telling stories. Getting to know people. And at the end of the day, we all one. We all one. It's just energy. We all one. Who are you? Do you know who you are? Who are you? A lot of people can't answer that. A lot of people can't answer that. Comment below. Who are you? Your story defines you. So don't be ashamed of your story. Tell it. Don't be ashamed of it. Embrace it. It didn't happen to you. It happened for you. I promise you. Take it from me. I'm the living proof. I am the living proof. Take it from me. So, I'm just going to finish smoke this blunt. Eventually, in a lot of episodes, y'all find out more about me. Like I said. But this was just a short introduction of myself. Just in case if you ask yourself, like, oh, well, why is he on crutches? How we end up on crutches? What is this podcast about? Are they just talking? Are they just smoking? No. No, we're telling stories. We're living our lives. We're telling our truth. Hoping it can help somebody. Because one last thing I'm going to let y'all know about me, like why I'm really thankful for this, because after this, I had the biggest blessing, which is my daughter, Layla. Layla Fahiza Burton. I love you. And if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be where I am. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't been on the path. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't met her mom. So at the same time, anything after this, I am so thankful because she's the biggest thing, the biggest blessing that ever happened to me. So at the end of the day, people, just embrace whatever you're going through because the blessing it's gonna be rewarded. It's gonna be so huge that, again, if someone asks you would you do it over again, if you had to go through it, you will say yes. You will say yes. But that's about it, man. Y'all will find out more about me, along the way. Again, my name is KHAS, a Don't Want podcast. Just looking to change lives. That's it. We all one on The One podcast.